Hello, Dr. Lisa Thompson is with me here today. So welcome,
Thank you so
welcome.
much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I've been excited to sit down with you and talk a little bit about the things that you understand and the directions that you like to go for, I think, kind of a joyful experience of exchanging the exchanging the experience, exchanging the know, the divinity. I think is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to do a short introduction. This is Dr. Lisa Thompson with us here today, and she has done and is doing some amazing things in the world. So I think we're going to have a great conversation. Just to give you a little bit of information about Dr. Thompson, she's a best-selling author, a galactic ambassador, channeler, and an intuitive. Those all sound absolutely wonderful to me. Also, a transformational coach specializing in unique energy healing modality called Ascension. Galactic Ascension, is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Galactic Ascension Channeling. Yeah.
hmm Okay, okay. And parallel life regression, right? Parallel
Mhm.
life regression in your coaching as well. And you've written some books. A few of them are titled Wisdom of the Galactic Channeled Message to Elevate Your Life. Connection to the Cosmos is another book. Remembering Your Galactic Heritage, Embracing Your Oneness. Sacred Soul Love is another book about manifesting true love and happiness by revealing healing blockages and limitations. Sacred Soul Spaces, another book. That's a lot of books, and they all sound wonderful. In this book, Sacred Soul Spaces, designed your personal oasis, designing your personal oasis. And of course, you're in Hawaii. And if that isn't a personal oasis, I don't know what is. I have never
Yeah,
been there, but it sounds like a really wonderful place.
it is.
Now,
I've been
Lisa
here
also has, for how long?
4 years now.
Ah, okay, okay. Lisa also has a weekly podcast titled Connection to the Cosmos. And that sounds pretty exciting too. You might want to check that out for any of our listeners. And we'll go a little bit more into what you offer towards the end of the interview, because you really have some amazing offerings for people as well. And you've created 9 oracle decks. 9 oracle decks. That's amazing. I love cards. I love the oracle decks in particular as well. So you are a busy woman for sure.
I am.
And it sounds like you're creating in a way that's really full of joy for you and happiness. Is that safe to say?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And it was 4 years ago when I did move here to Hawaii that I was able to like fully step in to who I'm here to be my full authentic self as a star seed, a galactic ambassador, doing the channeling work. And that really unleashed my creativity. I've always been a creative, but that just really unleashed my creativity in writing and then creating these oracle decks.
So a lot of your writing and your decks have been done since you moved to Hawaii. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
Um, Sacred Soul Spaces and Sacred Soul Love, they were written back when I was living in Olympia, Washington. And then
Mhm.
when I moved here to Hawaii, that's when I came out of the closet of being this galactic person and being an experiencer. And so really, what I did was I started leading a night sky watch UFO tour here on the Big Island of Hawaii. And
Mhm.
because I was sharing with people my stories and my experiences, and we were seeing these craft, I decided, okay, I should write this down. So that's what led to actually those two newer books, The Wisdom of the Galactics and The Connection to the Cosmos.
Oh, that sounds amazing for sure, for sure. Now, how did you get into the channeling that you're doing. Was this something you did before you moved to Hawaii? Because it sounds like a lot of creativity has happened since you moved to Hawaii. But before
I'm
that, or just
So before I moved here, I wasn't channeling ET energy the way that I know that I do now. However, anytime we're in any kind of creative flow, doing any kind of art or music or dance, we are actually channeling, from higher sources. And so I've always been a creative. I've had different creative outlets, but then I also had this very science mind. So my PhD is actually in biology, zoology, marine biology, and evolutionary biology. And so,
mm-hmm,
but even though I would be doing my science and some of my other, after I left academia, I was in the mortgage industry for 5 years. I was still doing creative outlets. And then I actually owned a home staging and interior design business for 12 years. So I was getting to be creative like every day and for
mm-hmm,
years. So that creativity has always been here. But in terms of the channeling, the actual like vocal channeling and the writing channeling, um, I first got exposed to channeling when I was 13. My mother moved me from Oklahoma City to Yelm, Washington to attend a spiritual school of enlightenment that was taught by an ascended master who was channeled through a lady. His name is Ramtha, and the lady is Jay-Z Knight that channeled Ramtha. And so that was my first exposure of this. This was in 1986. And so channeling was definitely a fringe thing back in the 80s. And
mm-hmm,
so I knew the information that was being channeled really resonated with me because I was learning about higher consciousness, being that we all are God, we are all connected to source. It's not separate from us. But I never thought that I would channel. And because I tried to be really normal fitting in most of my life, and hiding that spiritual side, really so that I could be taken seriously in my different careers. I didn't think that I would ever want to channel or that I could, because again,
mm-hmm,
there weren't that many channels back in the 80s. And then I was watching Ruben Langdon's show on Gaia called Interviews with EDs. And he has 3 seasons and he's interviewing different people that channel these different ET beings. And so he's showing them channel, but then he's also interviewing them, talking about like how they got into it. And that totally opened up my world to being like, oh, channeling is so much more than what I got exposed to, through in my teen years and my 20s and 30s. And so I met my Arcturian family. I've got a lot of different, galactic family, but the Arcturians were the first ones that really came to me in a spiritual way. And that was back in October of 2018. And they're the ones that wanted to start channeling through me first. And again, it wasn't until I moved here, and it was probably early 2022 when I was starting to write my Connection to the Cosmos book, and they were really like, we really want to speak through you. And so I had to get over what other people think of me is none of my business. And like, if people think I'm weird, that's fine. This is what I'm really here to do, is to be this messenger, this ambassador. And so I actually ended up taking a channeling class to open that vocal channel because I felt very restricted until
mm-hmm.
I took that class. And then once I took it and I really knew what that energy was, and the other realization that I had was I'm channeling myself from that Arcturian realm. And
Mm-hmm.
so because it's not separate from me, there's nothing to fear. And these, those are higher vibrational beings with pure love, with these beautiful messages of unity and connection. And so I thought, well, I have nothing to fear with channeling those kind of messages. And now um I've channeled 13 different higher dimensional galactic races to date.
Wow. Oh, that is amazing. And I love the fact that your mom was the one who took you to a place and a space where you could learn about this back in the 80s. That's wonderful to have
Yeah, well,
someone that close to you showing you this stuff.
well,
But I
oh,
know what you
sorry.
mean. It's hard to come out and to show the world all that you are. But it's so amazing when you can do that. Tell
Yeah.
your story.
Yeah. Well, and even before we moved to Washington for that spiritual school, my mother was always into the metaphysical world growing up
Mhm,
previous to that. So she was taking astrology classes at night, and she was a single mom, and I'm an only
mhm,
child, so she would bring me to these classes. So I'm getting all the information in the background. All her friends,
mhm.
they're psychics, witches, tarot card readers. So, all of
Ooh, I love it.
that kind of world, that's what I totally grew up in. And I do know that I chose her specifically as a mother so that I could be born into that reality without needing to go through a lot of religious dogma that I would then have to unpack later in life.
Hmm. Exactly. Because it takes some work to unlearn the things that we take in from the society around us. So it's nice to not have to. That was a good choice. Sounds like you made a good choice for a mom.
It also had some interesting life lessons that I chose that went along with that. However, I
Yeah.
know that being a way shower, a light leader, that I was meant to go through some really hard stuff in my life so that I could overcome it and show people, okay, there you can get out of it. And so I am continually a rising phoenix.
Mm, beautiful. And yes, if you have to go through it and get yourself out, then that is how you learn to heal, isn't it?
It is.
I don't know if there's another way that's better, but that way is the way that I've come from as well. And it really is powerful.
Yes. Well, it
Hmm.
also, before I went through some of the really hard things that I went through, I didn't have the understanding and I didn't have the empathy or compassion for people in the way that I do now. And so I can really come from a place of, okay, I've been in that experience. I know how hard it is. And you can create a new timeline. You can shift your reality. And here are some methodologies in doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. We are just so much more than we could ever have fathomed until we got into this. And I, like you, really like the quantum science as well, the biology and the physiology, the physics. Um, it's it's amazing when you can look at things from the smallest and look at the biggest and recognize that everything is doing the same. And then you can look at the person and the cosmos as being all one.
Yep. And actually, I'm writing a new book on that. It's actually at my editor right now. So it should be out
Oh,
in
cool.
2 to 3 months. But this one's all about awakening to your multidimensional self, harnessing energy, timelines, and higher consciousness.
Yeah. Do you think we're still a very small population uh, in like if we looked at the whole population of the earth, do you think we're still a pretty small population that's understanding these things?
I do. I know more and more people are waking up every day. And the more that people like you and I are out there just sharing our messages, even if we touch one or two people in each kind of, interview that we do like this, or I speak on a lot of spiritual summits. Weekly I'm doing my podcast. And so every time I know that there's some nugget someone is getting from me, and that just plants seeds. And even with the UFO tours that I do, even though I get believers, but then I also get some skeptics. But I know everything that I'm sharing, whether their ego understands it or believes it, it is planting seeds to have a beautiful new earth.
Yeah, and it has to start somewhere. So the planting of a small seed is fine. It's the beginning, and that can grow from there.
It can, because
Yeah.
not everybody's ready to believe whatever we have to share. Like some people who, if I tell, yeah, I've been on spacecraft and I channel ETs, and they're just like, okay, you are cuckoo. And that's okay. They're not ready for
Yeah.
it. And all soul journeys are perfect. There's no right or wrong timing for when someone awakens. It's all there all the time. And so those who are ready to, great. And you get to be part of timelines of Earth that are ascending, shifting. And then there are going to be people that aren't ready yet, and they're going to stay in the other timelines where we still have more of a fear-based, polarized reality.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, not sometimes, pretty much always, there's divine timing as well. So
Yeah.
having a seed planted and then moving forward in a time and space where it's the right time and space for you to awaken is the way we have to look at it as well. And it it's it can be kind of frustrating because sometimes we just want to say, wake up.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah. What I have definitely learned is you can't convince anyone of
no.
anything that they're not ready to be open to the information, and that's okay. Again, I've been a teacher most of my life too, and so I understand, you know, different people take in the information at their own pace, their own style. They receive different pieces of information. So it's all good.
Yeah, it is. It's all perfect. And once we recognize that, it does take the pressure off of that feeling of uh when you first wake up, there's a feeling of wanting to help everyone wake up. And it's nice when that drops away and you can fall into the, yeah, it's fine. Wherever a person is at is perfect for them. You can talk and you can be open about how you are and who you are and where you've been. And then they get to choose how much of that
Exactly.
they're going to take in and how much they're not ready for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I would really love to hear from you what some of the messages are that you've received from multidimensional contact out there, and maybe what the ETs want humanity to understand. What do they want us to be looking at?
So, one of the really big themes that's been coming through over the last 3 years, particularly from my Arcturians, is that this concept that all timelines exist simultaneously, and you get to choose which timeline you want to be a part of. And so, how you do that is by where is your focus going? Where are your emotions? Whatever you just like law of attraction, wherever you're putting your attention, wherever you're putting that focus and energy and feeling those emotions, that's the life that you are creating. That's the environment that you are creating. And so, if what they told me 3 years ago was that I had to completely stay out of politics, I had to quit watching any news, any media, that I could not, especially for the work that I'm doing and being a clear channel for them, that I could not
Mhm.
put my attention in these areas, because by putting it there, it would be creating more of that in my life. And also, if you're hearing these fear-based messages over and over and over, and you're seeing the wars and the divisiveness with the politics, that's crazy, right? It's gotten worse and worse, it seems. And so if someone's energy is there, then they're bringing themselves into a lower vibration. Now, for us to really ascend to more of that fifth dimensional reality that some of us teach about, share about, really it's about, no matter what's going on in your life, being in a state of joy, because you can find gratitude in any little thing aspect. The more you're focusing on gratitude and being in this state of joy, following your passions. We're not here to just wake up, go to work, eat some dinner, and go to bed and repeat. We're here to actually make known the unknown and follow different passions in our life. We need to play. We also, one of the big things that they really brought through in the new book was getting over our own judgments of ourself so that we can release judgments of other people, because that's what keeps us in this polarized reality. We think, oh, well, their opinion or their whatever they're doing, their action, that's bad, because it's not ours. And when we really are in that fifth dimensional reality, we understand that there is no more polarity. All things exist. And so there is no good or bad from that higher perspective. Everyone is allowed to do whatever they're doing, but when they're in that, because they're in a higher vibration, that's where this principle of love is the basis of everything, in this universe. And that's where, in fifth dimension, we start having the understanding that, oh, we are really all connected. We are all one. Unity really is the thing. We are not separated from each other or from source. And so the more that we heal our traumas, we heal our judgments, get over shame, guilt, we clear out any fears that we have, the shadows of our minds. Because if we are still judging humans, and different realities of humans in terms of even what they look like, or what they believe, or whatever it is, then how are we going to be part of a greater galactic community with beings that have completely different cultures? They look different from us. I mean, people still are judging even the biodiversity of animals on this planet, like thinking, ooh, that thing's ugly, right? And
Ye-
so,
Honestly, yeah,
and so
yeah,
how are we as humanity going to accept beings that look different from ourselves if we can't get over the judgments within? And so those are some of the messages that they
mhm.
they really want us to be part of that greater galactic community. And we are moving there, and there are timelines where there will be significant open contact. In the meantime, those of us, you and I, that are realizing, okay, yes, we're here as star seeds, we're here to be in connection with these higher dimensional ETs. We are the disclosure. We don't need, the government to tell us. Now, some people do, but we, in our own experiences, really are the disclosure.
Yeah, it is so true. That is so true. Even, and we don't know what this disclosure will look like, in the material world. I don't know. Like, there have been people who have been seeing what I'm going to try to describe it. What is like something in a Merkaba in a very
Mm,
small form. And it's very bright light, but
mhm.
soft, gentle. You have to look very closely and enlarge it to see what you're looking at. That to me is someone showing themselves, and that is a disclosure. But you have to have an understanding before you know what you're looking at. So who knows what disclosure is going to look like? And I love your idea of we are disclosure, because it's true. Like, you've had experiences of being on ships, and I know many other people have, and they probably don't remember them.
Correct. Yeah, most people are not allowed to remember because it would mess up their daily lives. They wouldn't be able to handle the information.
Yeah.
And so for me, like I've been with different groups throughout my life because I am way more not of this earth than I am of this earth. And
Mhm.
so there are so many different groups that I do work with that I'm a part of. And so I know throughout my childhood, they wouldn't let me remember my different experiences. But when I was 15, they one of the groups let me have my first conscious memory of being on a spacecraft.
Mm.
And and understanding like what was going on. And I was able to have it validated, not only by my own knowingness, but also external validation from a very high former government official who knows about the different ET groups that the government works with and knows about.
Oh, that is amazing. That's amazing. Do you feel like telling anything about that to us? It's fine
Yeah.
if you don't, but
Oh,
because I have a tremendous curiosity and I
yeah.
also have some sort of memories. So
Okay.
I'm curious to know when you were there in whatever physicality you were there in, what was it like?
Okay. So yeah, no, I love sharing this story because it's very different than a lot of other people's experiences that they might remember, either consciously remember or through regression work, hypnosis kind of work. So it was a nighttime experience where I was sleeping in my bed. At the time, my mom and I lived on 20 acres outside of Olympia, Washington. And
Hmm?
I don't remember how I got onto the craft, but all of a sudden I wake up and I'm inside this craft. And it was a smaller shuttlecraft where it was just me and my ET guide. Now, when I'm sitting there next to him, I didn't have any fear whatsoever because number one, he looked very human. And I was 15. He looked maybe early
Hmm.
20s, like, a good looking, early 20s kind of man. And I felt like I knew him, like he was my friend that I had met him for. So I
Hmm.
remember we start flying through space, and from the perspective of being inside the craft, the walls look completely transparent where you could just fully see out into space. The darkness of the space, the pinpoints of the starlight, the different beautiful colors of the gas layers that we were flying through. And then we
Hmm.
finally land where we were going. And when we got there, I asked him, "Where are we?" And all the communication was all through telepathy. So,
Hmm.
so I asked him where we were. He said that we were inside of Io, one of Jupiter's moons. And then he started touring me around what looked like a hospital facility where I could see into different rooms where people were being examined, but nothing scary like in the movies, no probes or anything. But everyone looked really human. And so my next question to him was, "Are you human? Is everyone here human?" And he said, "No, those of you that we brought here are human. We are not. We are humanoid, but we disguise ourselves because our form tends to scare you." So then my next question to him was, "Well, why are we here? Why am I here?" And so he said that those of us that had been chosen to be brought there were being tested to see if something happened to Earth, if we could live in an environment like that or something similar. Now, this is back in 1988, where we're still in the Cold War, on the verge of World War III. So there really was a timeline where something bad could have happened.
Hmm.
Now, at the end of the tour, so I asked him if I could see what he really looked like. So as a kid, I was obsessed with animals, and the weirder, the better. That's also why, like, I went into zoology and marine biology. I just love different animals, very unique. So I thought if
Hmm.
he showed me what he looked like, I wouldn't have any fear. And so what he ended up looking like was he was about 7 feet tall, pure white skin, big dark eyes, and long red hair, like true red, fire engine kind of red. And he had triads or triangles tattooed on his cheeks. So very extreme in his size and coloration, but completely benevolent. So
Hmm.
then I get returned back home, and I remember laying in my bed and vaguely remember the spacecraft outside in my backyard, but I'm just laying in bed like, okay, that is the weirdest dream I've ever had. And I just kept laying there. Okay, that was a weird dream. Now, with dreams, we tend to forget details within the first 10 minutes of waking up. So, but again, for a few months, I thought, okay, that was just a dream. I didn't tell anyone. And then fast forward a few months later, I was reading Whitley Strieber's book, Communion, which is about his experiences of being taken by gray ETs. Now, at the end of his book, he's interviewing different people that had been taken, and they all have the same kind of gray ET experience he's having, except for one guy. It has a completely different story. where he's telling Whitley that he had been taken to a moon of Jupiter and told he was one of the chosen ones. And Whitley makes a little side comment, kind of sarcastically, I hope it isn't Io. And as soon as I read that, head to toe chills, tears starting coming down my face. So that was my body's way of being. That was a real experience. That was not just a dream. So
Yeah.
again, at the time, my mom and I were in the spiritual school of enlightenment where we were learning about higher dimensional reality and ETs and all the things, the fairies, the dragons, things that don't exist in this physical realm, 3D physical realm. And so I knew if I told my mom, she would believe me. And so I went and told her, and she got very excited. And a few days later, she introduced me to another gentleman who was a student at our school that had been very high government, who knew about different ET races that the government knows about and works with. So when I got to the point of, I shared my story with him, got to the point of describing them, and he was like, I don't know that race, but he said, there are so many different races out there. We don't know all of them. But he said, you had a real experience. And so that really planted the seed. We were talking about seeds earlier. That planted the seed for me of doing the Galactic Ambassador work that I do now.
Well, to have faith and trust in the belief that you had this experience is so empowering, because when you have the faith and the trust that it was a true experience,
Yeah.
And your discernment, your inner discernment tells you that it was, it's just eye-opening to know that all of this is just part of the bigger way that we are, the bigger beings that we are, and that we've just either forgotten about or been manipulated into not being aware of. And these experiences are wonderful. I am so happy for you to have had that experience and to be able to remember it and talk about it.
Yeah. Well, and I was always curious, like, who are they? But because again, I was trying to be pretty normal for most of my life, because after I left academia, I was in mortgage for 5 years, then I had this interior design business for 12 years. So I'm trying to be very normal. And so then when I met my Arcturians in October of 2018, that kind of opened up the can of worms again to start going down the rabbit holes. Well, so there are a few authors that have written and illustrated books on extraterrestrial species, who some of the races are. And so I purchased those books trying to figure out, who is this group from Io? Like, are they known? But since that government guy, he didn't know who they were. And looking through these books, so Craig Campabasso's book, he's got like 82 different races. And then Elena Dannon, she's got over 100 races in her book. And these IO people, not in any of these books. And so what's interesting, so I had a curiosity question about that. So I have a lot of psychic medium friends, and I was working with one of my friends, in particular, Lee, because I was like, Lee, let's see if we can figure out like why this group is not known to see some of these people. So he was able to pull them in. Like he's a very talented medium, and they came right to him. And I've had other mediums who they've come to, and they're like, yeah, we don't work a lot with Earth. We don't work with a lot of humans. And we're very neutral. We're not part of any of the galactic federations. We don't work with your governments. Like we stay under the radar. But they said, we are connected with the Arcturians, and the Arcturians had asked us, basically, because we're more physical than they are, to look after you in your life. And so that was part of that connection with the Arcturians, and it made sense.
Oh, that is very interesting. Because yes, when you have an experience and you're told that you are of a group that nobody is talking about, it's kind of it puts you on a quest, a curiosity quest to find out what it's all about.
It does.
Right?
Well, Yeah, and then what's interesting is I have a friend Jason who went to a channeling kind of conference a couple months ago in Sedona, and one of my favorite channels that I love her books and her material, Lisa Royal Holt out of Arizona.
Mhm.
So she actually at this conference that Jason was at, she was channeling some group from, I think it was actually IO. I don't know if it's the same group, and I'm perhaps going to get to meet her in January. So what I might, when I meet her, I'll tell her my story and just see if it is the same group or not, because it may not be. They're not from IO. They colonized inside of IO. And, a lot of our planetary bodies within our solar system, there are beings living inside of those moons and planets. And so, um, anyway, there's just so much
Yeah.
more there than our mainstream science knows and will acknowledge.
Oh, yeah. We have had so much hidden from us that it's just mind-boggling when you start to uncover some of it, and then you start uncovering more, and the vastness of it is uh, quite an experience to start uh, embodying and accepting and seeing as true. Um, but it's it makes life make a whole lot more sense. At least that's what it's done for me.
Yeah.
And and understanding that we're more than a 9 to 5 job. We're more than the anxiety and the fear that I've lived in for most of my life. To get out of those, the 9 to 5 job, and to get out of the fear and the stress of being full of anxiety.
Mm.
It makes all of this so worthwhile to delve deeper. And I just want to run this by you. Um, Lately, I've been toying with the idea, and it's not a new idea. It's one that's been around for a while, but it's just making a lot of sense to me. Our dream state is a bigger reality than our physical walking around state. And that
Yes.
just most people go, okay, now I know you're cuckoo.
Yeah.
But
No,
it's true.
it is true. And we do so much work in the astral realm and, and on multiple levels. So it's not like we're astral traveling to just one place. No, we're like, we've got our fingers in a lot of things going on.
Yeah. Away from this earth that we're on.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Because this actually,
Fascinating.
Bashar says this is a dream, this state, this human reality.
Hmm.
And I fully believe that.
I am really embracing that notion as well, that it it's a truth that um for people who don't want to believe it, that's fine. They can stick with
Yeah.
their 9 to 5 and be in their physicality, which it was explained to me that the body that we see, this vessel, is really just frozen energy. And by
Mm,
frozen, I don't mean cold, I just mean held still, held
yeah.
very still. And that's how we can see it. As soon
Yeah.
as it starts moving and rotating and becoming lighter, less dense energy, um, the whole story changes then.
It does. Well, and one thing that you brought up was that whole Merkaba idea. And March 7th of last year, so of 2023, I got to experience one of those kind of craft. I do believe it was that kind. And it was just a personal experience. I'd been speaking about my book, Connection to the Cosmos, at our local bookstore about an hour away, and it was nighttime. And every time I'm driving home, our island is not very populated at all, and we have very dark skies, so I'm always seeing these lights and other things. And so the whole way home I'm like, okay, hey guys, I want, show up for me. I want to see signs that you're with me. I was just talking about you. And nothing till I get about a block away from my house. And when I got so all of a sudden I see this really bright light pop up above the tree line. And so I acknowledge it. I was like, okay, see you. I'm going to go home and park my car though. Stay there. So I park my car, walk to the end of my driveway, and I look across the street above the tree line, and it was still there. Now, what it looked like was a very bright pulsing star. And so first thing I did was had to get my constellation app out to make sure there was no star or planet there. So there wasn't. And it was completely stationary, making no noise. So, definitely not a satellite, it's not a drone, not anything like that. So then I start
Hmm.
talking to it. And I'm like, okay, I know you're a craft. Please do something for me that a craft can do that a star can't do. So what it did was it completely dimmed out where I couldn't see it at all. And a few seconds later, it came back on full brightness. I got really excited. I was like, do it again, do it again. And it did it again. It dimmed out and then it came back on full brightness. I was like, do it again. I asked 5 times. It did it 5 times for me. And so
Mm.
that was confirmation, right? I needed that validation. So then I realized, oh, I've got my phone. Let me try to take pictures and video of you. And so what my eyes were seeing was very different than what my phone was picking up. And I'm trying to zoom in and do this stuff. So I was just hoping for the best. And at some point I needed to go in the house. It was still there. And I'm like, I always thank them for showing up for me whenever they do. Always gratitude. And so I go in the house,
Hmm.
I'm looking through my photos and the videos, and I actually got a really good picture and video where
Oh, yay.
as because it was stationary, the photo, what it looks like is like a double bullseye, like a double donut. And
Hmm.
the video, it's pulsing and spinning. And so my knowingness told me, oh, that's the Merkaba doing its counterclockwise rotation. And
Hmm.
the next day, I was channeling the Pleiadians, and there are other people that have been like, okay, that kind of craft, that's a Pleiadian craft. But what was super interesting is that the next morning, starting around, so this was 8 o'clock at night that I was having this experience. Now, starting around 5:30 in the morning the next day, people were waking up driving to work, and these spaceship clouds were all over our island. Now,
Mm.
scientifically, they're called lenticular clouds, but we don't have the atmospheric conditions for these clouds to form on our island. Now, back in the Pacific
Mm.
Northwest where I'm from, we do. But these clouds seriously stayed around from 5:30 a.m. until 10:30 p.m. stationary, and all these other clouds are blowing by, but these guys, giant and stationary. And it was all over social media because it was such an unusual event. And so again,
Hmm.
I had friends texting me, "Oh my God, do you see these Pleiadian craft in the clouds?" And anyway, so it was a pretty incredible experience.
No kidding. That sounds wonderful, really. And, these experiences, to be able to talk about them, wonderful. But I think it's important that people understand we're not doing this because it's fun, because it takes every bit of courage inside to when you initially start, come out and say, yes, this is, and I want you to hear about this and this. It's not something we're doing for fun. It's something that we're doing to help humanity, is my feeling.
It is.
Because
It is.
yeah, it's a whole different thing. But we do get a lot of um, perks is the word that comes to mind, but that doesn't really describe it. We get a lot of really wonderful benefits from this. And I think the biggest is the internal feeling that we have of being home, the internal feeling of love, the internal
Mhm.
feeling of a parts of love, purity is so much. The internal feeling is so huge in propelling me forward to learn more and to do more.
Yeah. Well, and for me, the ones that have come through me. So some of them just, they've shared messages, but then three of my groups, the Arcturians, Syrians, and Mantis, they actually channel healing energy through me. And it's me
Mhm.
again in these realms channeling it through Earth Lisa. But when I am running that energy through my body, not only is it healing my body, but it's propagating out into earth and anyone in my environment, and
Mhm.
specifically my clients that were doing focused energy. And so really, the more that we can heal ourselves, and I'm going to come back to this, the more that we can heal ourselves, clear our blockages, remove our traumas, let go of the stories that keep us stuck in our life, the more that we can do that, then we can actually blossom and live these beautiful lives that we are meant to live. We're here to again make known the unknown and to have these different experiences that we can then feed back to source.
Exactly. That is a perfect statement telling what we're capable of, what we can do, and maybe tell us a little bit more about your work because that's your healing modality, and it sounds like it's a little bit different than anybody else's. And I think everybody who is a true healer has a little bit of a different spin on it because of where they've been and who they are and how they are.
Yeah, so the first, it's kind of a combination of different techniques and modalities that I've learned that I've been basically guided to, like, okay, that's your next thing. So the very first thing I got trained in was past life regression therapy. Now I'm changing that terminology to parallel life regression because the quantum level, there is no past, there is no future. Everything is existing simultaneously. So it's all parallel.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
so with that kind of regression work, we're going deep into the subconscious mind where all the answers are locked inside. You can get to the root cause, whether it's this life or some other parallel life of whatever a blockage or trauma is. We can rewrite the story. We can just understand it from a higher perspective. So that in itself is very powerful. But then
Mhm.
I was called a couple of years ago to become certified in sound healing because sound, the frequency of sound really amplifies that healing. And so they called me to do that. I do human design as a modality because we are here to be earth human too, not just our ET selves. And so it
Yeah.
understanding who we came to be and how we operate in the world can, for me, it was a big game changer 10 years ago. So understanding my human
Mhm.
design, my astrology, all of that. Um, and then they activated my light language probably 3 years ago now, and then I bring in this healing energy. So really this modality, this galactic ascension channeling, is a combination of all of these and
Yeah.
more. And I am teaching a certification program in it though too, and it's not just what that would do is allow other people to basically call in whatever their energy that they can channel. And so learning these different techniques, because everyone, like you said, does have their own unique way of doing it, but some people really need the hand holding in terms of unlocking that in themselves.
Yes, for sure. For sure, that's true. Yeah, okay, that's you've talked about the work that you do in finding your way through different things. Like there's not just the healing that you do, but you do the going out and looking for UFOs, you do working as a coach, and I'm trying to think what else.
Well, so I teach online classes, I lead retreats, um, I've got my oracle decks, and I'm
Yeah, so
continually
much.
evolving. I'm just,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
what's next? Because I
Hmm.
I tend to need variety in my life because otherwise I get stagnant and bored. So
Hmm. Yeah.
I
So that's why all the different ways. Well, in the description of this video, I will leave your email, I will leave your website, and people can certainly contact you and work with you. And it sounds like it would be exotic and also just a whole lot of fun.
It is. And
Yeah.
one thing I do have at the very top of my website is a free 20-minute meditative journey to meet your galactic family and guides, where you can experience meeting them, get messages from them. And because you can download it, you can do it as many times as you want. And so some people, when they do it multiple times, they'll get different groups every time and different messages. Other
Ah,
people, they repeat it, they'll get deeper and deeper in connection with a specific group. So just one
that
thing
sounds
for,
amazing.
for people that are
Yeah.
curious or that really
Yeah.
do want to get in contact.
Yeah. Oh, that is such a nice offering. I know that people will really enjoy that. I'm going to check that out for sure. For sure. Well, I really have enjoyed our conversation. I hope that we in the future get to have more conversations because this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I would love to have you on my show too, because I know you have a lot to
Oh,
talk about.
perfect. Yes, perfect. We'll set that up for sure. Well,
Okay.
thank you very much for joining me tonight and taking time out of your life because I know you're busy, but thank you for joining me and having this conversation that I know people are really going to enjoy to hear about for
Thank you
sure.
so much.
Okay. Take care.
You too.
Bye for
Bye-bye.
now.